The moment our fellow geeks, dweebs, nerds, and other unfortunates have been fervently waiting for has finally arrived. It's time for TMI, Confessionals of the Nerd Kind. And now, your hosts, Jeff Nerf Herder Chandler and Jim Kaiju Baker. And now, let's get on with the show. Here is TMI.
All right, so shall we begin? And
let's get in. Let's do it.
You may hear a female voice chiming in. This is the great friend of TMI. I would like to think so, anyway.
Yes.
Oh, I thought Jeff had some hormone shots.
No, he did not.
Okay.
Sorry to say.
That's not me. There's 3 of us this week.
After...
Oh, wait, we're officially starting? We're done? We're in?
Wait, we are
in, all
yes.
Right. Welcome, everybody. And go.
I wanted it to sound natural, but I didn't quite get there. So our guest this week is Christina Henry, a world-renowned author, I would say, crossing genres effortlessly, from fantasy to horror to sci-fi. I don't think you can vote anymore, but Christina's latest book, The Girl in Red, is part of Goodreads.com Best of 2019 contest. And
yes.
Unfortunately, as of now, the voting is closed.
Yes.
But I voted like about a week and a half ago. So hopefully, fingers crossed. Yes.
Nice.
Well, I mean, the book's in the same category as Stephen King. So I kind of feel like if I came in second, that would still be a good
You're a good company right there, huh?
Yeah.
But I tend to go for the underdog anyway. So even if you weren't in it, I wouldn't vote for Stephen King.
He's won enough.
The last time I was nominated was for Lost Boy, which is 2 years ago, and Stephen King was in the category.
Right.
I was
you're
like,
keeping pace with him.
Yeah.
Okay.
And any of his sons as well? Are you against the family of kings in any of these
Well,
setups?
Joe Hill was in the first round. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Oh,
but I don't know. I can't remember if his book made the final round. I think it might have. Yeah. So yeah, I could be up against both.
The entire family, yes.
Yeah.
Does Tabitha still write books? I don't think she does.
I don't think she's come out with one for a while, but his whole family is incredible because
it's crazy.
Both of his sons write, his wife writes, his daughter-in-law is a writer, and his other daughter-in-law is an editor.
And one of his sons, I think it's Joe, has that incredible Stephen King 80s beard that just goes right into his nose, and all you see are the lips. It's like the cover of Danse Macabre, all over again.
Oh my.
So yes, Christina, we're very pleased to have you here.
Yes, welcome.
Thank you so much, you guys, for letting me join in, as
Absolutely.
completely unqualified.
Well, we're unqualified as well.
Hey.
Don't be giving us any kind of accolades either.
Well, I mean, you guys have done this for a while, so I'm hoping that I just
Does it sound like we know what we're doing?
It does, mostly.
Wow, all right.
Yeah.
That's a high praise right there. I'll take it.
So we're about to test that theory.
You appear competent.
You're only the 3rd guest we've ever had.
So
The first one
really?
did not go so well.
But we're here today to talk about Chapter 5 of The Mandalorian, entitled The Gunslinger. Now, talking about Stephen King, this, of course, when you hear that title, you can't help but think about the Gunslinger series, which is so far removed from The Mandalorian. But I just like to point out on an aside that when reading your books, The Alice and then Red Queen, especially Red Queen, I got some of that Gunslinger imagery in my head reading Red Queen. So I thought I would tie that in myself.
Oh, thank you.
Nice.
But in this episode, Chapter, Jeff, just reach out and slap me whenever I say episode.
Right. It is what it is.
So this is like the 5th episode of your podcast where I've heard you say episode, chapter. Yeah.
You can't edit that one out.
Yeah, no, I can't. As we've established with Chapter 4, he's now has Baby Yoda, and he's unable to drop him off with any kindly family that he runs across in the universe.
He's now stuck with this thing.
He's stuck with the baby. Now, we've established that he's still being tracked by the Guild of Bounty Hunters because these tracking fobs keep turning up everywhere. And I want to get your take on this, Christina. How do you think that they're tracking him? Is it biological? Does he have a chip? How are the fobs pulling selling these bounty hunters to Baby Yoda.
Yeah, I mean, it seems strange that he would have a chip, you know, that he would sort of be pre-chipped for bounty hunting.
Just in case this kid goes rogue.
Because it seems anybody that's a target, they have fobs for. Anybody.
So, I mean, my theory, it's a theory, you know, was that they had somehow gotten a blood sample.
Yes.
DNA.
You know,
yeah.
the fob was recognizing his DNA, because it's the only thing that seems plausible. But of course, there's also the question of where did he come from in the first place? And I know you guys have talked about that, you know, maybe he's a clone, or
They're trying to clone him. Yeah.
they're trying to clone him, or my husband has a theory that he asked that I present to you, that the client, Werner Herzog's character, and the scientists were trying to extract midichlorians from.
Yeah, see, I said don't bring up that word.
I know, but it exists.
But I know it does,
Yeah.
and even more so now. I mean, we're getting little touches of episode 1 throughout this thing, so it could, you know.
Yeah, it's like an idea that maybe they were trying to create a Jedi that was as powerful as Yoda.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's obviously one of the things that keeps people engaged in the show is the questions that they have every week, coming back, trying to see if they'll get answers. Although, you know, it's now episode 5, and I feel like we're getting a lot of.
I know. That's exactly what I said last week, which was, you know, I'm on board, but you gotta show me something. You gotta start telling me what the end game is. We got 3 episodes, three chapters left in this season.
You know, I was watching this week's episode. I really started to get like a Fugitive vibe. You know, the old TV show, The Fugitive. You know, so it's like every week he would go to a new town, right?
Yeah. Or the Incredible Hulk, for that matter, right? He's always on the run. He'd help the people out, and he'd turn green and have to run away again.
Right. So it's like every week he goes to a new planet and he gets involved in something. And this week, even when I saw the planet just sort of in the distance through his ship, and I was like, oh, they're going to Tatooine.
Yeah. No, I know. That was this whole episode is just straight up fan service. And I don't say that in a bad way.
Yeah.
Because, when you hear that little, Mos Eisley Tower, this is, you're cleared for landing. And I went like, we're going to Tatooine. You know,
well,
and I called it,
You know, in New Hope, Luke says, like, you know, if there's a bright center to the universe, you're on the planet that's farthest from, and yet everything happens.
Yes, correct.
On Tatooine.
Well, you know, once we established that Vader created 3PO, all that, you know, everything's got to be connected thing. Yeah, right.
Now, before we get into the specifics about Chapter 5, I just wanted to revisit Chapter 4, because unfortunately we didn't have Christina for the Chapter 4 discussion.
Yeah.
Now, this ties in because we've been talking about samurai connections with The Mandalorian. It's never as apparent as it was in Chapter 4. Like a wholesale, that is the plot of Seven Samurai. Every movie that's ripped off Seven Samurai, like since then. So what was your reaction to that, being such a huge samurai fan?
For me, it's actually really nice because it goes back to the source of Star Wars, you know, because Star Wars was really heavily influenced by The Hidden Fortress. I don't know if you've seen Akira Kurosawa's Hidden Fortress, but like Lucas has admitted it, and Kurosawa is on film, like even talking about that he could see the influence of his film on Star Wars. So I think it's, in a way, it's a nice callback sort of to the roots of the franchise itself. You know, Akira Kurosawa in particular is such an interesting phenomenon because he's a very Western style director. By Western, I mean Western culture, not Western films. And his films drew very heavily from the Western influence, but then they influenced back.
I was going to say that's probably why that they really attached themselves, the Western filmmakers, to Kurosawa, because he had that influence,
right?
And it spoke to a Western audience.
The 2 characters in episode 4 came up to Mando and they're like, can you come protect our village? And I was like, oh, Seven Samurai, you know, and it's like even down to like the villagers like doing the bow work with the sticks and all the stuff, which is directly from Seven Samurai.
Did you also get an Army of Darkness?
Well, Army of Darkness is kind of Seven Samurai, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yes.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So I knew that you're probably talking back to your TV during Chapter 4, right?
Yes, I was.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, you have Star Wars New Hope, very strongly influenced by Hidden Fortress. And obviously people have talked about like the Lone Wolf and Cub similarities, especially in the first couple of episodes. And then you have Seven Samurai. And, there was even, it's not a samurai film, it's a Hong Kong action cinema film, but there's the scene in now I forget, now they're all kind of running together. I can't remember if it's the second or third chapter where he saves Baby Yoda, right? Third episode, saves Baby Yoda. And he's holding him and he's running through and he's shooting down all the stormtroopers. And I thought, oh, well, this is just like a scene from Hard Boiled.
Yeah.
The
Have
John
you seen
Woo.
John Woo's Hard Boiled?
Yep.
So the scene when Chow Yun-fat's running through the hospital with the baby in his arm and he's taking down all the gangsters.
Yeah. Yep.
You know what made me go back and watch Hard Boiled was Hard Target. I am ashamed to say.
You have to watch
now
it
I have to
brain.
watch this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think one of the fun things about the show is not just kind of the callbacks to other Star Wars films, but also if you're a film fan, you see that they're really showing their influences on the show.
Yeah, unabashedly. So it's not subtle, but that's the great thing is that I think that they want people to maybe go and look up what they're referencing, because some of them, they're so obviously referencing something that
right,
it's sparking a lot of debate online, what this means, what that means.
Right.
And this show is extremely popular. It's in terms of the more recent Star Wars movies, this has been resoundingly met with, I think, critical acclaim for the most part.
Well, I mean, we said it before, which is it's kind of a, going back to the roots, and, all these people that cry and complain about the new series and how Star Wars has been ruined for them. This is what they wanted. This is what we've been told we should have gotten a long time ago. So I think they were talking about a live TV show years ago and they just didn't have the budget for it. So say what you will about Disney, but they dug deep on this one.
Well, there was a Verge article that came out a couple of days ago, basically talking about how The Mandalorian's like a gateway drug to get Disney Plus.
It's true, though. It is. Yeah. It's true. Yeah.
And they mentioned in the article that Disney's spending $12.5 million per episode.
Wow.
On this show. I mean, I think you can tell they're spending a lot.
I was gonna say it's I did hear though that there's I don't know if it's in an upcoming episode chapter that they didn't have enough stormtrooper costumes, and you're like $12 million. You think they'd be so they actually hired out some of the 501. The people. The 501 came in and acted as stormtroopers in an episode. So that's pretty cool. But $12 million. You remember when Battlestar Galactica went off the air because they were spending $1 million? Yeah. And that was the same. They just showed the same space battle every week.
This might explain why it's only 8 episodes long.
That is true.
Yeah, that's true.
Here's your budget.
An episode.
But I'm sure how many people have subscribed already to Disney Plus? I'm sure that they've made this money back.
Over 10 million on the first day.
That's crazy.
And none of the Marvel shows are even close to being on there. Yeah, just imagine. Okay, so now let's get into Tatooine. Yeah.
Yeah, so that is like you said, Christina, as soon as you see the planet out his cockpit window, like you can't mistake it for anything, and especially when he flies in over Mos Eisley, that's the exact same scene you see Luke and Obi-Wan and the droid standing over it tickled me pink. It starts out with him being attacked by yet another bounty hunter. And he pulls this maneuver that we've seen in every Star Wars movie where he just throws the thrusters in reverse, goes behind the guy and then blows him up. And I'm like, I think Luke did that in Return of the Jedi. And Obi-Wan definitely did that in the asteroid chase scene with Jango Fett.
Of course, my favorite thing about that scene was Baby Yoda in his car seat.
Yes. Well, always say safety first. Safety first.
He has this cute little seat for him now so that he's not sort of free floating around the cabin touching buttons. Right.
At what point do you see Gerber like mass produce these things and start banging them up? People having kids again just so they can have a Baby Yoda car seat.
Now, I'm still disappointed that Tatooine is not pronounced Tatooine, as I thought.
I always Tatooine, right? Because that's the way. Because I think after you saw the movie, we only had like the comic books and the trading cards to kind of reference. We can call it Tatooine.
So the Razor Crest is Mando's Slave One, if you would just indulge me with that. Now, apparently, both of his engines were shot out, but somehow he manages to fly down to the surface. to Mos Eisley, and there he encounters Pelimato, who is a mechanic of sorts, and she's got a bunch of pit droids.
How come they couldn't get Adria Barbeau for that?
She's too busy doing Creepshow. You don't have Shudder.
No, I don't have Shudder. No,
So,
I
but
didn't know that
this is played-
she's still acting. Wait, she's still acting?
She's still acting.
Oh,
yeah.
no, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Let's get her on the show.
She's played by Amy Sedaris, who any Strangers with Candy fans out there. I didn't know that until the credits. This show does a great job of hiding who's in it.
Yeah, because I hate that when you get the stunt casting, you're like, oh look, that's what's his name, and then you're completely distracted. So yeah,
especially Taika doing IG-11. Like,
oh, I know.
Knowing that anybody could have done that.
Yep.
But yeah, we see the pit droids as now they're from episode 1.
Episode 1, yeah. So you got that little callback.
And now I really like this about the show as well, is that, and I think we mentioned this a few shows ago, how they're really trying to make an effort to bring in other characters and other species that you've seen before. And it's not just new things every single time.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Why create a new species when we've got, just, you could make a whole series just out of all the characters you saw in Jabba's palace. I want to see more squid heads.
And it's the thing that always amazes me about the Star Wars universe is every single one of those characters has a name, even if you don't know it, right?
Yeah, even if it's not given to you.
Yeah.
Right. Well, you got to slap something on the action figure, right?
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's
Kenner was making up
toys.
names back in the day. But.
Like Snaggletooth. Was he Snaggletooth in the script, or just named as alien?
No, I don't remember. Geez, now you're gonna. I do have a book, and he does have a name, but he'll always be Snaggletooth.
In one of the episodes, they had, I don't know the name of his race, but the Salacious Crumb, the little laugh.
Oh yeah, the little.
He was in one of the we saw them being cooked.
Yes,
one of the Mandalorian episodes.
Yeah, so yeah, you're seeing a lot of these.
And you're
guys.
thinking to yourself, well, geez, they're not all little assholes. These
Not much meat on them though.
No, there's not.
Must be hard up. And we do hear a womp rat. Second time.
Yeah. I'm convinced that that's like a generic.
That is like a generic. Just
that's like a slur for any rodent
low life
there in the but we also get stormtroopers' heads on pikes in this, or helmets at least.
Helmets, yeah.
Pikes. Is this an allusion to the Great Purge? Maybe the purge means the purging of the Empire.
It could be.
I interpreted it as basically no Empire riffraff welcome,
Yeah, and even said, he was even told that the guild doesn't really operate out there either because it's all controlled by the Hutts. Mm-hmm. So if you take that, like it's the Bronx, it's all run by gangsters. Even the corrupt politicians after a while get run out. Yes.
So, but that brings us to the cantina.
Yeah.
Yes, the cantina. There's like right down to those IG-88 heads, the bars behind them. Those are all, they repurposed those when they made Empire Strikes Back. Those are exact IG-88 heads. If you look at all the little mechanisms that are behind the bar that look like giant cappuccino makers.
Those are IG-88 heads.
Dead silence, nothing. You got nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to pretend that I saw that, but I will go back and take a
Okay, but we did see...
It's the only thing, yeah.
Well, you know what it is? It's like, if you watch the Star Wars Holiday Special, that's where B. Arthur sings her song in the cantina. It's closing time.
Now, what about the booth that we see?
Right down to the booth.
Toro, is that the same?
I think they did a damn good job of recreating that, because that can't exist still.
Is that the Han Greedo booth, or is that
that's what you're led to believe. Yeah. I'm sure that they probably all look the same, but I like the fact that we saw R5D4, the little droid that Luke was originally supposed to buy, and he had a bad motivator.
Yeah.
Are we led to believe that he's still floating around on Tatooine all these years? He's just a drunken mess living in the bar, looking for his next lube job.
See, I didn't notice what was behind the bar, because all I noticed was that there was a droid serving in the bar.
Yeah, which is also the torture droid in Return of the Jedi. And
I thought that was interesting because in in A New Hope, the guy's like, we don't serve their kind here.
Yeah, and now all of a sudden he's running the bar. That is interesting. Yeah, he took over. He left Baby Yoda in the car. He left the windows down. He just left the baby. You're supposed to be protecting this thing. You got bounty hunters on your ass trying to kill this thing and catch it. And he just leaves it there.
Yeah, it's weird because it's like he shut the door. He's like, it's in a room. It'll be safe.
I guess he does. Like, that kid's that force sensitive enough. He couldn't open that door on his own.
This kid sleeps for 14 hours at a time. He'll be all right.
I thought that was a serious lack of judgment there. I'm like, dude, what are you doing?
And he really needs like a baby carrier at this point. He needs to
strap him onto the front. He could go old school Yoda on the backpack. Yes.
On the back.
He could be hanging up over his shoulder.
Yeah, they could do some somersaults and
there you go. Lift some rocks just by raising his hand.
I mean, I would be afraid to leave him behind. And every time you see him leave the baby behind, you start to feel tense because you're like, something's going to happen.
Because there's like a million fobs out there looking for this kid.
Somehow tracking this kid, and he's like, I'm gonna go to the bar, you stay here.
And of course, this the character that Amy Sedaris plays is not motherly in any way, shape, or form, but even she is taken by the cuteness of Yoda. And
there's no escaping. There's no escaping.
She's cooing and oohing and ahhing by the she doesn't even charge Mando extra in the end for babysitting, like she says she is. Yep. But in the cantina, we run into a new character, Toro Calican, who is a wet behind the ears bounty hunter who's trying to get himself into the guild.
And this smells like a setup right from the beginning. You're like, don't trust this kid.
Yeah, whenever you see an actor that looks like he belongs on the CW, you know that it's nothing good is going to come of him being on this show.
See, and and as soon as I saw him, I said, that guy has dumb written on his forehead. Like, D-U-M-B.
There you go. He's listening. He's looking for his next boy band to join. But I will say his outfit, I have like every art of Star Wars book ever made, and John Tolos, who did a lot of the not just set designs but also like costumes. Like that is one of Han Solo's very first looks, and some of the early promotional material and poster art and some of the just production sketches. So I thought that was a really nice callback to kind of bring that, because he's Han Solo-ish. With the vest and whatnot. And he claims he is Carillion, right? I think he said that, right, Jim?
Did he?
There was a mention.
I thought he said
of Corellia, but now I'm like, the context is escaping me. I don't think he said he was from Corellia. I think he talked about some equipment, maybe.
No, okay. I just got the connection because he
does. The binoculars, was it? No, I can't remember. I'm too old to remember what I watched yesterday.
Oh, welcome to the group.
Yes.
As we mentioned before, there's a lot of start and stops where we go down these rabbit holes, and all of a sudden we're like, wait, who was that? And then we can stop. We both IMDb. He's jumping on the phone. I'm jumping on the computer. And it's just magically all got back together.
Even notes don't help because I take pretty sufficient notes while I'm watching something, and usually what we end up talking about is nothing that I wrote down.
No, that is, I've learned to really streamline my notes because I tend to write silly stuff, and then you're right. You're either trying to force it into the conversation, or you're just like at the end, you're like, oh, I didn't bring that up.
Mm-hmm. But what I did write down is the name of the mark that Toro is after to get himself into the guild, Fennec Shand.
Yeah.
And she is a down and out, nasty mercenary. Even Mando is reprehensive about going after.
Yeah. So, he was like, oh, do you know who that is, dude?
Yeah.
He's like, good luck with that.
But with the enticement of money, because he needs to get his ship fixed.
Every episode he needs to get his ship fixed.
Because like you mentioned Battlestar last time, it's like, the Cylons after him. He's only got a certain amount of time before all these bounty hunters show up looking for Baby Yoda. So he's got to get that ship fixed and get off that planet. So against his better judgment, says that he's going to help Toro go after Fennec Shand. And there's a great scene, a callback, so many callbacks in this show.
There's
when they run into the Tusken Raiders. And it's almost like a note for note reshot of that scene where Luke is looking at them through the binoculars.
Yeah, and I love that scene because I feel like you got to look at the Tusken Raiders in a different way than you ever had before. They're always just seen as sort of this aggressive species that just,
that don't think, right?
Yeah.
They're like animals.
Well, that's what we were led to believe by Anakin, right?
And it was it was great. I loved that scene where the Mandalorian's like speaking to them in sign language and negotiating, and that he was perceptive enough to see that like this is not a shoot 'em out situation.
Right.
That he's not just going to go for the most aggressive solution. And I also liked that showed something about his character.
Correct. Yeah.
And it also shows that just like the Walking Dead zombies, they need some Tic Tacs because they can sidle up to you with making no noise.
Right. Yeah.
Just to go off on an angry tangent. If you ever watch The Walking Dead, how many times does a zombie sneak up on a character when they should be shuffling, moaning?
Strange.
But you think to yourself, they're thinking, stay quiet,
Right, exactly.
Don't moan.
Hold it in.
So they're suddenly there, and you realize what Luke's fatal error was in A New Hope. He could have just given them the binoculars, and they would have been on their way.
That's true, right?
Yeah.
Or 3PO for that matter.
Yeah.
Here, take the droid.
He could have negotiated. That was the point.
Stupid Luke. You think he would have known better. So how did he learn? How did he know their language? He'd never been on this planet before.
I assume that as a bounty hunter, he's like picked up snippets of languages all over the place.
Oh, good call. All
and
right,
you
I'll
see
find
that the Jawas are not indigenous to Tatooine. So
I don't
maybe
like
the
that.
Tusken Raiders.
I don't like that. Don't even go down that road. Don't even go down that road.
All right.
But then we did get a cool callback to Anakin's speeder bike in Attack of the Clones when he goes out to rescue Shmi, his mama.
Mm-hmm.
That's the same speeder bike he had.
Oh, okay.
They were cool. No, you're not picking up on any of these, are you?
No, that's why you're here, Jeff.
to fill in the nerd. Like we got a gonk droid.
So you can say these things, and I can nod.
You can go. Oh, gotcha.
I'm gonna go back a second, back to when they were in the cantina, because I loved the scene when Toro broke the fob. It was only a few seconds long, but I think it really shows what absolutely masterful Pedro Pascal is in this costume.
Jim's brought this up. It's crazy.
You can almost see his face when
yeah, it's crazy.
Toro breaks the fob. You can't see any expression. All you see.
No, but you know what he's looking. He's like.
It's like you can see his face just by like the tilt of his shoulders and this kind of like thing that he does. I think he's absolutely amazing because he's created a really sympathetic character out of this armor.
And it's almost to the point where, to your point, you have to really tell yourself, I didn't see his face, like especially thinking about that episode where he's fighting the big rhino in chapter 2.
Yeah, the Mudhorn.
We were talking about how it's like there's a close-up on the helmet, like he's just resigned to the fact that it's over.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he expresses that, the camera helps because the camera's moving in slowly on his helmet. But somehow he expresses the fact, know what he's thinking, and you see no facial movement whatsoever. Yeah. So it is.
Yeah, I think we're going to be a little bit disappointed when we do see his face at this point because he's
got a lot to live up to.
Right? Oh, that's what he looks like. Oh.
Or I'm still convinced that he's going to have a crushed head left over from Game of Thrones once he takes off that helmet.
Once he faced the mountain.
Yeah.
I am the Viper.
So now we get a Marvel tie-in when we finally see who Fennec Shand is played by. Mm-hmm. So we bring back Ming-Na Wen from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I always think of her as Mulan, but yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Mulan.
there you go.
Mulan.
Yeah, she's the voice of Mulan.
Yeah. Not anymore. Right? We just got the live trailer. The live trailer.
Yeah, there's a live one. But she'll always be the voice of Mulan.
I agree.
Yeah. I think she's so awesome. I just love her as an actress. I was so excited to see her on the show.
Yeah,
even if it was only for a few
I was
minutes.
going to say, yeah, promising, because right up to this point, we really don't have a lot of female characters in the Star Wars universe. So they're bringing these in, and you're like, oh, cool. And then they immediately like, we're taking her away from you.
And she was very strong on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And
she was a great character.
Yeah, and that that she's physically able to match anything that Mando has to offer.
Right. So you kind of want to see her play it out, and that's not going to happen.
Wasn't the case.
No, he did make a little Boba Fett reference. She's no good to us dead.
Yeah.
Foreshadowing, Jeff. Let's not quite get there. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I spoil it?
You've already spoiled it.
I did spoil it.
So I'm taking that you guys had the same theory I did at the end of the show.
Oh, I called it from 2 episodes ago, 2 chapters ago, that this is, although I think it's being hotly debated online, but they have force-fed us this and right down to, all right, we'll get there. But yes, the last 2 seconds of this episode chapter.
We're almost there.
Let's go. Let's keep going. Are we there yet?
So Toro convinces Mando to go after the dewback that they saw earlier in the chapter. There was a failed bounty hunter who was apparently shot off this dewback by Fennec,
Right.
and the dewback's been dragging him through the desert. So now that they have no transport back to Mos Eisley, Mando realizes he has to go back and get that dewback, leaving Toro with Fennec, who sees an opportunity because this kid is stupid and he's
Right.
And he's hungry.
And what she's saying is true. Actually.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not a lie.
She's like, dude, do you know who that is? like he's your prey. He's the guy who's going to get you into the guild.
He is like the most wanted bounty hunter that's out there. He just, there was a massacre on this other planet, and everybody's looking for him and who he's carrying.
Yeah. So how this kid didn't know about this story, and then all of a sudden he's like, oh, that's why he had a baby.
Yeah, 2 and 2 together, you can almost see the light bulb go off over his head.
Correct.
Smartly, he kills Fennec rather than take the handcuffs off of her.
Yeah, point blank at that. That was a little harsh.
And I was really angry about that because I was like, she would be such a great adversary.
Absolutely. Agreed. Like you said, we have we keep being introduced to these characters, but they're not IG-11. Boom, he's gone, done, one and done. This character.
Yeah.
Right.
A lot
or
of
like
potential.
Cara Dune.
Yeah,
Cara Dune. It seems like they're trying to keep these chapters individual.
Self-contained. But
yes,
but you want to see the larger. Like you're saying, you want to see the larger narrative going on. Something we've got to get past these episodic. I'm going to go to this planet. I'm going to be sucked into doing something stupid because I need to fix my ship, and now someone else is after this baby, so now I got to leave.
Right.
Like we're now 5 chapters in. Enough. And I think by the little teaser that we got at the end, I'm hoping that this is start of something much bigger. But I will say, hot damn to a Mandalorian riding on a dewback. That's about as close to the Boba Fett riding on the back of that sea creature in the holiday special cartoon.
And you got the same. They filmed it from the same angle.
Yes,
I remember having that. There was a Topps baseball card of the Stormtrooper on the dewback from that same exact angle.
Yeah, right. That's why you didn't see the guys underneath the dewback holding it up. But then the special edition came along and they CG'd the hell out of them. But that was cool. Yeah, I want that action figure. Yes.
But no, this brings us back. Toro goes back. He goes back to where the ship is moored in Mos Eisley, and he's got Baby Yoda, and that's where the audience hisses at him.
But so he just left the girl. He just leaves her dead in the desert. He's not even going to claim his bounty on her.
Yeah, I thought that was weird because it's like, I mean,
what's the point? What was the whole point of this venture?
He could still, even if he gets Mando, he could still get the extra.
Yeah, right.
Too, right?
But it was kind of like Bugs Bunny convincing the Tasmanian devil that, you don't want to eat me.
Right.
Skin and bones. Here, I can get you duck.
Duck season, wabbit season, duck season, wabbit season.
So they go back to the hangar. Mando does, and there he sees Toro with Baby Yoda. There's a shootout, and of course, Mando kills Toro.
So yet again, another character.
Yeah. But Baby Yoda is safe. He is unharmed. That's what matters at the end of all this.
I'm not even concerned about the baby. I know he's going to be fine at the end of the 30 minutes. Everything gets resolved. Except.
Right.
Okay, so now let's talk about this.
Okay.
Somebody discovers the body of Fennec out in the desert.
And you only see their feet.
And their cape.
And their cape.
Yeah.
That is the most important part of this whole thing.
No, there's one other point that's even more convincing that we are seeing who we think we're seeing. If you go back to The Empire Strikes Back, whenever Boba Fett, and this is who we're all speculating.
That's what we all think it's Boba Fett.
Boba Fett. Because we're on Tatooine now. We're 7 years. We just talked about this. You're 7 years after Return of the Jedi. You know, we've been told that the Sarlacc is going to devour you over 1,000 years.
Right.
He has plenty of time to figure out how to get out of this thing. You know, he's got other bodies in there if he needed to eat. In The Empire Strikes Back, whenever you see Boba Fett walking, Ben Burt, the sound editor, created a cowboy spur. He doesn't have spurs on his feet, but he has that sound when he walks, and you hear that when you see the feet come up. And that, to me, is the telltale sign that we got Boba Fett. And I hope, I pray that they bring in Daniel Logan to play him, the kid who was Boba Fett in the prequels. I think that would be very nice. Give this guy a job.
There are some party crashers. I've read some speculation online that this is the character of Moff Gideon, played by Giancarlo Esposito, who you haven't seen yet. on the show.
Mm-hmm.
So they're thinking, well, this would be a good introduction to him, but riots would happen if it wasn't Boba Fett, you know?
I feel like it would be very emotionally devastating to me if I discovered it was not
so close.
Boba
We're like,
Fett.
we finally make it back to the planet, and they're like, yeah, no, he did that. Yeah, he's dead. Yeah, no, he's dead.
And he's probably none too pleased that there's somebody else wearing his armor.
Iron Man too.
Well, I mean, I think it would be, like you said, it's very plausible because they're on Tatooine.
Right. You've gone to this extent of going back to this planet, of dropping all these little clues.
And, you know, with the Sarlacc, like, it's so easy to say, like, he flew out of the Sarlacc off camera. You know, like, it's the easiest thing to do.
Yeah, he's still in armor.
You know, to fill in that that narrative space.
Yeah.
So,
we could have a whole flashback episode to how he got out and what he's been doing.
And imagine how excited people would be about that. Like a whole episode about Boba Fett.
Yeah. Well, that was going back, we were going to have a standalone Boba Fett movie, and it was going to be exactly in this tone, which was the old school spaghetti Western, Clint Eastwood, man with no name. And that's what we're getting here, but with a different character. But he's so closely related to Boba Fett that you can't not tie the two together. I hope.
Again, you can't help but think how this is going to affect Rise of Skywalker, either story-wise or expectation-wise, because this show is so good. How can the Rise of Skywalker, just from the track record of Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, hold up after you've watched The Mandalorian? Especially, literally, it's coming out in between, I think, 7 and 8 on that week.
Yeah, I don't know.
So,
you know, J.J. Abrams has gone on record that this last movie is going to tie everything together. So who knows? I don't know. My expectations are I'm not going in high expectations. I just want to be entertained, and don't bring in time travel. Not in my Star Wars movies, please.
But, you know, Baby Yoda, you think we'll see an appearance of him in?
Well, he would be, what, 80 by then?
So he'd be like a teenager.
A teenager. He'd be like teenage Groot.
Yeah.
I am Yoda. I am Yoda. He'd be like a dick, right? I ain't helping you.
Like some amazing foresight, considering how far out the films get made.
Yeah, I agree.
Like how far out they were probably filming the TV show last year.
Yep.
You know, it's like how much communication is there between the creative teams? Like how much coordination is occurring to like pull all the threads together? Yeah,
no, I agree with you on that. It would take a lot of pre-planning. This is in the past,
right?
You know, so again, right? Are we going to see an army of Baby Yodas or something? Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, but it's not so far in the past that it's not, it's within a generation of what's happening in the movies.
Right, correct.
Yeah, again, like it's plausible. It's just with Abrams and his team talking to Favreau and Filoni and their team when they were making the film, and they said, oh, we have this cute character. Do you want to throw him in your movie for a cameo?
Right. Yeah, it could just be something as simple as that.
But I can see the headlines. It's okay, but no Baby Yoda.
Right. The downfall.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting because it does go back to what I was talking about earlier, that article, which was talking about like Baby Yoda as kind of the gateway drug, right? So in the article, they talked about how they have this show that people are talking about. Like when you have something that goes viral, this is like a dream for the parent company or the production team, right?
Yeah.
You just want people to start discussing it. You don't have to advertise, right? People are like, the show's so good, you have to get Disney Plus so that you can watch this. So people get Disney Plus so they can watch the show. And then next week after the episode, there's going to be a preview of Rise of Skywalker. And so you see the preview for Rise of the Skywalker and you say, oh, I want to go to the theater to see the movie. And then you go to the theater to see the movie and they show an ad for Galaxy's Edge at Disney World.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, well, that's the Disney machine.
So it's like everything's sort of feeding in, like Baby Yoda is the top of the pyramid. And then, it's expanding out from there.
Yeah. Well, they knew what they had because they kept they had to know that this was going to be a big that this character was going to be it was going to explode because they did a damn good job of hiding it. No promotional. You didn't see any plush toys beforehand going, look who's going to be in this show. Like they really kind of kept it under wraps. But yeah, now that he's out, it's Disney's all over it.
Yeah. Bob Iger should have Baby Yoda like a parrot on his shirt.
I just bought my son a little shirt, and I'm sure it's probably bootleg, but it's a little Baby Yoda pocket sticking out of the pocket. on his shirt, and that's his Christmas gift.
I thought they didn't want to reveal the twist at the end of the first episode.
Oh, maybe, but it could be.
That the bounty was a little baby,
right,
and not a person. But I don't know that they really knew necessarily what they had on their hands when they were first filming it, because I'm sure you guys have heard at this point the story about Werner Herzog.
I haven't, but before we go into that, I just want to say, I meant to say this before, that I can't really look at Werner Herzog without thinking Klaus Kinski. So for them together to be there and maybe bickering, like two ornery. It's like the two guys that sit up in the balcony of the Muppets.
Yeah, there you go.
Stellar and Waldorf.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bad show.
Yeah. So like when they were filming it, Werner Herzog saw the puppet on set, and he literally broke out into tears. He said it broke his heart. He was so overwhelmed by how moving this puppet was. And the special effects team wanted to do a shot where the puppet wasn't in the shot because they thought maybe later they would decide to do it as a CG instead. And he said, "You are cowards."
That's crazy.
He was so angry that they would even consider using a CG. And I don't think that a CG character would connect even remotely the same way.
Right. Even with the technology that we have. No.
I would, if I saw that puppet in reality, like the actual puppet that they use, I would probably fall into the fetal position just from the overload. Cuteness. I couldn't take it. I would cry, and that would be it.
You would be just like Werner Herzog on set.
Yeah. After being berated by Klaus Kinski. Yeah. And overcome with Baby Yoda.
There you go.
Yeah.
I can't take it. So that was it. So yes. I guess we got to wait a whole week to figure out if this is Boba Fett or not.
Boba Fett.
I wouldn't be surprised if they
don't even.
If
I agree
chapter
with
6
you.
is not even going to mention it, and then you'll have to wait till chapter 7 or maybe even chapter 8. Who knows?
I agree with you on that.
People are going to lose their minds.
I already lost my mind.
It'll be like Dumpstergate all over.
Poor Glenn. They even took his name off the credits on that.
Why are we still talking about The Walking Dead?
We are still talking about The Walking Dead. Are
you guys still watching The Walking Dead?
I still do, out of obligation, more than anything else.
No.
I gave up after season 2, so.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was.
No, we stuck out longer. The last official episode with Rick in it was enough for me, because I really thought that they were going to write him out, and then I was told while we were recording the episode, no, they're making standalone movies with him, with his character, so he doesn't die in the end. And I said, "That's it, I'm done."
Hey, it's on a Sunday night. I still watch it. Yeah. I don't enjoy it. So
why do you watch it?
Are you like
again?
forced?
It's like obligation. It's like I guess I need to know what happens.
Did they send you a check, like a weekly check?
No.
I mean, but if you want to know what happens, you can just read someone's Twitter recap.
Right, correct. Yeah,
this is true. Yeah.
Oh, look, more zombies.
You don't have to put yourself through that.
Yeah. Wow, Jim, you're a sadist. You're a glutton for punishment, my friend.
I am.
I mean, really, you could be watching The World According to Jeff Goldblum.
Oh, I do watch that. I do watch that as well.
To do with your time.
The Imagineers, I do all that stuff too. Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe I should just stop. Cut it.
Seriously, how many hours?
It sounds like you can.
How many hours do you have in a week?
Right.
Think
it's
about
true.
it. Walking Dead is taking up an hour.
All the stuff I could be doing during that hour. All right, so chapter 5, and thank you, Christina, so much.
Yes, thank you.
Joining
this was
us.
awesome.
Yeah, thank you guys for letting me come and speculate.
You're welcome whenever.
Yeah. Whenever you have the time, just let us know. We'd welcome you back anytime.
Gonna make you guys watch Yojimbo and Sanjuro, and then we can discuss.
Yes.
Hey,
yes.
we're up for listener requests. Hidden Fortress. We should actually talk Hidden Fortress.
Yeah, I was very remiss, Jeff, but when we were talking about 1941, not to bring up Toshiro
Mifune,
who was the commander of the submarine, who is the star of Yojimbo.
He's my favorite actor. So
cool.
I could actually do a lecture for you guys on Kurosawa Mifune collaborations. So.
Awesome.
We welcome that. Yes.
Jim now has a free hour since he stopped watching Walking Dead.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
We can now take your class.
Yeah.
Go check out Christina's books in the library. I know you have, my library system had a fair amount of your books, so kudos.
Yeah, libraries are good. Libraries buy books.
We do promote and support our local library.
Yeah, I'm a
as much
fan
as
of
possible.
libraries. I'm not a fan of pirating.
Don't pirates.
Yeah,
No
so
pirates.
Yeah, please go to the library.
Can I talk like a pirate though?
You can talk like a pirate at the library.
Go buy her books.
Now, again, I did mention the Black Wing series, but before we go out, I just wanted to mention some titles to give you guys ideas of what to look for. The Girl in Red is her latest book that's on the shelves now. She's got 2 more coming, as we were talking about previously to us going on air here. Looking Glass and Ghost Tree. Those are coming, but those aren't on sale yet. She also has 2 books based in the world of Alice in Wonderland, but it's her own twisted take on Alice in Wonderland. Now, technically, the term for this is a retelling, but I don't like that because
I don't like it either.
It seems like you're just retelling the same story, which is not the case at all. Characters, yes, but they're your characters. They're not the Alice from the original book, but it's a fresh take on it. Maybe revisionist fiction might be a better. I don't know.
You just made a new category.
Well, it's sort of interesting because I was actually on another podcast recently called Breaking the Glass Slipper, and we were talking about this. You know how works by women that do this kind of thing that I do tend to be called retellings. It's very passive sounding, right? Like you're telling something. But when men write them, they tend to be called reimaginings or reworkings. Really? Think about how different the language is there between imagining, which implies like great creative leaps, right? Yeah. Whereas telling,
retelling, you're like telling a bedtime story.
Yeah, right? I heard this. Let me tell it to you. Yeah.
So, I do object to the retelling category, but it's just sort of how a lot of this kind of work gets sort of lumped in. Yeah.
But you do it so well. Lost Boy is the Peter Pan story, but told through the eyes of Captain Hook when he was one of the Lost Boys. And Peter Pan is really, I'll put that out. But yeah, you don't really like Peter. It's Captain Hook is the hero of that book, which is great.
Well, it's his story, right?
Yeah, it is.
Everyone wants to be the hero of their own story.
I think that, for Peter Pan, I think that I didn't do anything that wasn't already kind of embedded in the text. I was just extrapolating from something that was already there because Peter Pan's a heartless character, you know.
He's very self-centered.
He's a child.
Even in the Disney.
Right, correct.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say in the Disney, absolutely. Self-absorbed little jerk.
We got the mermaid. That's like revisionist history almost, where it's like you're using real world characters.
Yeah, that was not based on Little Mermaid at all, which is like a kind of a misconception. People are like, oh, well, it's a mermaid story, so it must be the Little Mermaid. That was just I actually thought that idea up about 10 years ago. I was reading about P.T. Barnum and the Fiji mermaid, and I thought, well, what if the mermaid was real and not a hoax? Yeah. So that was how I came up with that. A lot of the books that I write come from like a really tiny seed like that, and I just sort of have a question, what if the mermaid was real? And then I just kind of write to see what happens.
What if Baby Yoda was real?
Oh, Baby Yoda was real, I would adopt him. Yeah.
You would adopt him. Nice.
Take him home with me. Yeah.
I would probably every 5 minutes just want to squeeze his head.
Right. You'd be like, Gucci.
I was actually thinking about, in like all seriousness, how they made him appeal to so many people. And like, there's 2 things that I kind of zeroed in on. So one of them is obviously the big eyes.
The eyes, yeah.
Which is
very emotive, yeah.
We have, as mammals, we are actually genetically programmed to view big eyes as being like helpless and vulnerable. We want to take care of them. That's why all mammal babies have oversized eyes.
I don't like being controlled like that. Manipulated.
And his big ears, he has like Dumbo-like ears. His ears are so outsized to his head.
He hasn't grown into them yet.
So you have this sort of awkward feature which becomes cute because he has a tiny little face. And then he has those big, big eyes. And so you just sort of zero in on those 2 things. And immediately you're like, oh.
Huh. Wow. He's in our DNA. Wow.
He is.
We are programmed to love Baby Yoda.
We are.
Before that nasty ginger kid from Dumbo makes fun of him, you want to protect him. You want to shield him.
That's right.
Stupid kid. Awesome. This was fun.
So, okay. Right. Thank you again.
So,
thank you. Yes.
How do I get out of? I'm not going to mess you up if I just like close.
I think there should be a button.
There's
like
a button
leave
on the
meeting.
bottom left hand. If you just roll over, it says leave meeting.
Okay, and that.
And then you're gone. Yeah.
So you could have done that at any time, to be honest with you. You could have just cut out of this whole thing. You'd be like, dude, I'm out of here.
Like an escape hatch.
I got work to do.
Yeah.
Right. All right, well, it was a pleasure.
All right, well, thanks, guys.
Nice seeing you again.
I am Yoda.